All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Thank you so much for joining us for All Indiana Politics. I'm Alexis Rogers. We're starting today by talking about the race for governor in Indiana, the 2024 election. There is at least one candidate to already enter the race. Eric Doden is already on the campaign trail, hoping to succeed Eric Holcomb. Doden served as president of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation under Governor Mike Pence. He's also been the CEO of Greater Fort Wayne. Let's welcome in Eric Doden. Let's start with basic questions. First, thank you for coming in and chatting with us. The first question is definitely, why announce so early? Why do you even want to run for governor?
Well, let me start with maybe why run for governor, and then I'll move to why announce so early. But the reason to run for governor, I think it has to be about people and creating opportunities for people. I grew up in Butler, Indiana, a town of 2,500 people, and I had a lot of people invest in my life that created conditions that allowed me to do some really special things in my career, including head up the Indiana Economic Development Corporation and be involved in statewide leadership under Governor Mike Pence. And, I think we want to create the same conditions for people all over the state of Indiana that allow them to have not just prosperity, but opportunities for growth and improvement in their lives. And I think that's why, people should run for political office, is to create those conditions that help people have a better life.
And when it comes to how early, some folks are like, you know what, we're not even to 2022 yet. How do you respond to them of how early you're starting?
Yeah, it's really simple. We did an analysis of what it would take to do a listening tour to all 92 counties, and you can do about 45 counties a year. And then you have to have the last year where it's a very much of what we call the dead sprint, where you're doing a lot of meetings and things that are very quick and efficient. But during the first 2 years, we're able to really sit down with about 20 plus leaders per county, engage in a conversation, have plenty of time to do that over coffee, and get to know their issues, their concerns, things that they would like to see us think about from a state government perspective. So it really is about having that time to listen to people.
What I love so much about being able to do interviews like this is that people get a chance to know you, where you stand on things. We've had 3 straight Republican governors, all somewhat different in their styles. Are you much more like Mitch Daniels, Mike Pence, or Eric Holcomb?
Well, look, I think ultimately people will have to decide my style, but I would say that my style is kind of 2 things: high affirmation, high expectation. So what we want to do is affirm people, be relational, but we want to have expectations that, we have communities that are vibrant, that we have communities that are, really attracting population growth, and that they should expect us to have good, efficient, effective government. And I want to be held accountable, and I also want to make sure that we surround ourselves with a team that delivers the best service possible to the people of Indiana.
You've really based a lot of your early campaign on pitching this idea that you want to see Indiana be bold. What does that mean to you, and where has Indiana been bold so far?
Well, I think unfairly, the entire Midwest has sort of been labeled as 2 things, right? The Rust Belt state, or the Rust Belt, and then also the flyover state. And, for those of us who live here, and I've lived here my entire life, we love this place, and we think those are unfair characterizations. But when you meet with people in certain communities, there are things that we do need to fix and to clean up. Factories that have been left over from a bygone era that are in a state of disrepair, and they're not economic value added, they're not improving the lives of people. And so these are some of the things that I think we need to fix and to improve, and to make sure that we have vibrant communities that people can be super proud of to be part of.
One of the key criticisms of Governor Holcomb by some Republicans is that he went too far with his COVID-19 restrictions and that he put in place. In your opinion, did he go too far, and what would you have done differently?
Well, I'm here to really focus on the future and not really have an opinion much about, we have great leaders that have been in the past that have done great things for our state. and they've laid this foundation for us to build on to be able to be successful in creating these vibrant communities across the state of Indiana. But I would say, from my perspective, like on something like mask, people have asked, where do you stand on mask mandates? I really don't think government's responsibility is to mandate things. In fact, when government does mandate things, especially with people that value liberty and freedom, it tends to not be received well. I think government really should be in the business of educating people, making sure they're well informed so that they can make an informed decision.
We're not out of this pandemic yet, and we don't know what a timeline really looks like. We haven't seen something like this in about 100 years. So if you were elected into office and we face something like this, what are some of the things that we could expect from you in the future?
Well, look, we're going to pay attention to what the science says. We're going to educate people well, and we're going to focus on things that will make sure that people are well informed. I believe in making informed decisions, and to do that, you have to have a government that's capable of giving good information and making sure that we have the right information from the right sources and that we're accurate with that information. So I do think that we're going to continually have to make sure that we have good information that we're given to people that's accurate.
When it comes to some of the legislation that people could possibly expect from you, a lot of folks are talking about the Texas-style abortion law. They're wanting to know where their potential lawmakers stand when it comes to that. Are you looking to instate something like that?
Well, first of all, to be clear, I'm running for governor. I'm not a legislative branch, so they produce laws. I'm the one that is more on the executive side to make sure that government runs efficiently and effectively.
For sure, but as we all know, the governors have a lot of impact.
Oh, they do.
They do,
for sure.
Ways.
And so, look, I'm very upfront about this. I think voters have a right to know where we stand on these positions, and I'm 100% pro-life and have been, and I will continue to be that. And we'll have to see what happens with the Supreme Court and how they rule on some of these topics, and then we'll have to see what the legislative branch decides. But I think the voters should understand that I'm pro-life.
When it comes to the biggest part of our Indiana state budget, it's education. That's one of the biggest parts. Yeah. It's the state's public education system. What are you thinking about what we should be doing with our public education system here in Indiana?
Well, we're going to have some ideas that we're going to roll out. I think a lot of our ideas are going to center around parent engagement, making sure that they fully understand and are transparent about not just what's being taught, but what the cost of education is and how they can participate in education. But some of those ideas are still going to be rolled out here over the next year or two. We're also meeting with a lot of our educational experts, just trying to understand their perspective. And that's the benefit of starting early and having a listening tour. I can tell you that our family is very passionate about education. Our kids have been in schools and they're going to college, and I have a wife that's been on a school board, so this is a very important issue to us. But we're going to be rolling out, I think, some very creative things over the next couple years, and then we'll have a chance to see how people respond to those.
Let's talk about economy real fast, because that's what's on a lot of people's minds out there, especially after this pandemic. What is going to allow our economy to burst in a good way here in Indiana? Is it going to be manufacturing? Is it going to be, technology innovation? Where do you see us really upping our economy?
Yeah, I think right now in the economy, it's about attracting and retaining our talent. It's about creating communities and vibrant communities that our kids and grandkids want to live and stay and work. I have a lot of parents and grandparents come up to me thanking me for all the energy that's been created in places like South Bend, Elkhart, and Fort Wayne through regional cities because it's allowed us to improve the community to the point where their kids and grandkids are now coming home, bringing their talents here. So I think that there's been a lot of emphasis on jobs and job growth. I think we have to have an equal amount of emphasis on talent attraction and retention, and that's really going to set the stage for the new economy. The new economy is driven by talent and where talent wants to live and work and do their business, and I think that that's going to be a key part of our platform.
Let's talk a little bit more about the future. A lot of folks, especially when it comes to certain parties, they like to know where you stand. So for president, would you rather see Donald Trump or Mike Pence in office for 2024?
Well, you are throwing me a curveball, but you guys all know I have a special place in my heart for Mike Pence. He's a tremendous friend of mine, and he'd be a terrific leader. But that's really not for me to decide. The people are going to decide. First of all, they have to decide who's in the race, and we don't even know that. But they also have to decide, who is going to be their candidate. And so we're going to watch that play out. But people that know me know that Mike Pence is a special person, has been a special coach and mentor in my life.
Mr. Doden, thank you so much for coming with us, chatting with us, allowing us to get to know a little bit more about you. Until next time.
All right, thank you, Alexis.
Coming up, rental assistance in Indiana. More than $400 million was sent to the state to help renters struggling to make ends meet. Our Jasmine Miner explains why it's taking so long to help get Hoosiers the help that they need. Hi there and welcome back. There is a fear for a wave of evictions right here in Indiana. The federal government is sending more than $400 million to the state to help cover missed rent payments. But getting it to families who need it has been proven to be pretty difficult in much of Indiana. Jasmine Miner explains.
As of September 1st, the federal government has given out $450 million to the state of Indiana, but we're finding that only 19% of that money has actually been spent. That's $1 in $5. But if you look specifically at the city of Indianapolis, the city has been able to give out nearly 70% of its money. And today I'm told it's getting closer to 100%. Well, I spoke to people at the Urban League and right here at the John Bonner Center who tell me that it's because they already had a system in place while others may be playing catch up. Over at the John Bonner Community Center, a simple website was designed where people can complete their applications. They can take pictures of documents, upload it, and it automatically codes the application into the nearest community center for that person. Tony Mason, CEO of Urban League, says the structure has saved thousands. But even with the success of getting out the rental assistance money, it doesn't stop communities bracing for evictions.
Had we not had this program, we could very easily count the nearly 13,000 that have been helped this year likely would be either evicted or perhaps looking for housing elsewhere.
Is the rental assistance money enough?
The rental assistance money is a tool to help people to get through this moment. What it is going to take is a real overhaul of a number of systemic issues and challenges that we face.
James Taylor, the CEO of the John Bonner Center, says most of the money people make goes towards housing, not leaving a lot of wiggle room for much else. A U.S. Treasury Department report issued last month and obtained by ITMate shows more than 8,000 families statewide received federal rental assistance money in August. About 1 in 4 of those lived in Indianapolis. James Taylor tells me the reason counties outside of Indy and around the state may have struggled getting that rental assistance money out to people in need is because they didn't have these community centers, this network in place. And in his words, he says the traditional systems weren't built to handle the tsunami of economic peril that has come out of this pandemic. Well, he urges people in need to get plugged into your nearest community center in order to get help. I'm Jasmine Miner for Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook.
Take all Indiana politics on the go with you. Download our podcast now. Part of the All Indiana Podcast Network and allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in our panel. First senior advisor for the Indiana Democratic Party, Drew Anderson, and the former director of the Indiana Republican Party, Jennifer Hollowell. Both of you, thank you so much for being here with us today. Let's go ahead and start with the state's rollout of the rental assistance money. We've been talking about this a lot on our station. Earlier, we reported that less than 20% of the $400 million in rental assistance money has been allocated to Hoosiers. Drew, is there more that the state could be doing to get that money to those who need it?
The answer is yes. I think this is just another example of how the Holcomb administration and the greater Indiana Republican Party just wants to not accept the relief that the American Rescue Plan is delivering for Hoosier families. And the other example is unemployment benefits, and it's because they're doubling down on an extreme partisan rhetoric that essentially is diminishing Indiana's future. And it's a shame because given all we've gone through the last year and a half, we should be uniting together. And this is just another example of them trying to diminish Hoosier families' future.
Jennifer, what's your take on this? Because obviously we've actually seen Governor Holcomb talk a lot about this program.
He has. And I mean, obviously the state took extraordinary measures through the pandemic to help Hoosiers and to help Hoosier businesses. And in this case, which the folks you spoke with earlier talked about, the system kind of not being prepared for this kind of program throughout the state and the counties and administering it. But, you know, there's still several $100 million available for Hoosiers who need that assistance. And the state and the governor and his administration is working very hard to figure out how they can streamline the process to get the help to the people who need it. But the other thing, and I don't know why Drew would combine the two, but the other thing is we also, as you know, also need to get people back to work. And in a lot of cases, this is a challenge. It's a separate issue. But we have help wanted signs all over the state and worker shortages. And so, we really need to try to focus on that as well and get people back to normal and to work and help those who need it.
Let's go ahead and shift now to our earlier interview with Eric Doden. He's made an early entry into the 2024 governor's race. Jennifer, I'll start with you. What are we thinking or making of his candidacy, and what do you think are going to be his chances to succeed Governor Holcomb?
Well, I'll admit I was surprised when he entered the race as early as he did, just because it is very uncommon. But I mean, it is a smart strategy, I think, especially for someone who's not as well known throughout the state and with party regulars. So he has a lot of time that he can go and make his case and build relationships. He said a lot of really interesting things. He's got a lot of, I think, important perspectives to bring to this race. It's going to be a really interesting race for all of us to watch because, we have a sitting Lieutenant Governor, Suzanne Crouch, who I think we all should assume will be running and run strong. And she's a very hard campaigner and a good fundraiser. And then we also have, rumors around that U.S. Senator Mike Braun may be looking at this. U.S. Congressman Trey Hollingsworth may be looking at these. Both of those gentlemen also have some potential to self-fund. And then, of course, people are always talking about Attorney General Todd Rokita, and that's just a few. There are other people who I think are considering it. So for the Republicans, it is going to be a really interesting and likely very competitive race that's going to take a lot of twists and turns over the next couple of years, and then we'll see it play out.
Drew, what about on your end of the aisle? What are you guys seeing? I know it's kind of early, but folks are already starting their bids.
Well, I want to respond to actually Eric Doden's interview because he kind of told on his own party, which is that he admitted that Indiana's public schools have not been fully funded for the last 10 years. And the American Rescue Plan, thanks to Joe Biden and Indiana Democrats, got that done through the budget this year. And also he told on the brain drain that's happening in the state. And that's because the Indiana Republican Party's record on the economy is only feeding Hoosiers jobs that make us work more for less, and they've created a work more for less economy, and that doesn't help the future of Indiana families. So we're going to be campaigning on that over the next couple of years. And when it comes to the folks that could be stepping up for our side, whether it's Jennifer McCormick, Joe Donnelly, Eddie Melton, Christina Hale, we have a good bench as well, and we're ready to really crisscross the state and show up everywhere and talk about those issues because even Eric Doden told on his own party, and we're ready to take down the road.
Let's go ahead and expand to more national news. The president was out selling his two major spending bills that have been stalled in Congress last week. Democrats have self-imposed an October 31st deadline to get the bills passed. Drew, we start with you. Will these measures actually get passed?
They will, and it's because Democrats have control of the government. And we're lucky that that's happening because once we pass the Build Back Better agenda, that means more broadband money for the state on top of the $250 million the rescue plan provided Indiana. That means better child care services on top of the $540 million that the rescue plan provided Indiana. And that also means better jobs. And it's an opportunity to dismantle that work more for less economy that I talked about earlier through the PRO Act. So we're going to get this done. Democrats are ready to turn the page and really start revitalizing our infrastructure system.
Jennifer, what about you? What do you think about all of this?
Well, I mean, the president's already conceded that he's not going to get the plan that he's proposing, the $3.5 trillion program. And, the reason is because of Democrats. This is Democrats fighting Democrats. They can't agree on what they want to do. And there are some more moderate Democrats that are saying this is just way too much spending and we can't afford it. And so this is a fun thing to watch from the Republican side because Democrats can't even get on board with their own president on his plan. And so I think it has a long way to go.
We'll be okay. We'll be okay. And I want to actually add in there that under 4 years of Trump, Republicans spent $8 trillion and add that to the debt. And they refused to pay the bill when it came to raising the debt ceiling. So Democrats actually are going to be governing. And yes, it's a little messy, but that's governing.
All right, you two. I think
done.
we've come to the end of our time. Thank you so much to Drew and to Jennifer. We appreciate you both. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you so much for joining us for All Indiana Politics. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast as part of the All Indiana Podcast Network at wishtv.com. We want you to have a great rest of your weekend. And remember, be encouraged.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.